If you are not listening live, and you care more about things like RPOs rather than NOAs and TROs and lawyer talk, well, you can always just skip ahead. But if you are here live and with us just seconds after 2 o'clock on this Monday, welcome in and thanks for joining us as we are ready to get things underway and talk about the latest in what's going on with Michigan and Michigan football. And there's quite a bit. If you've been paying attention, and you have been paying attention, you want opinions on it, and I want to know what you're thinking of all of it. And so without further ado, let's just jump right into it. We have the Hype Train 1.0. That means, we are getting close to the season. You got that Hype Train coming down the track, and I've got my first edition of the Hype Train. And we do have a little bit of breaking news before we get to that NOA business of the draft. The two things to say to you, and we'll keep you up to speed with what's going on with Michigan. Over the weekend, Michigan did have a decommitment of a wide receiver in Philip Wright III. And I think the third was for 3 days following his commitment to Michigan. He was already looking at LSU. It didn't seem like a real firm commitment at the time, and that has proved to be correct as he is gone. So good luck to Philip Wright the third. The other thing is that the a poll is out. So the coach's poll, or I guess I didn't look to determine whether it was the AP or the press or the coach's poll, but regardless of what that is, Michigan checks in at number 8, and Michigan will be just fine at number 8. Michigan will vault up into the top 5, maybe into the top 3 if they beat Texas in week 2. So there's really nothing to worry about when it comes down to the polls. Would it have been nicer? I don't know. I think when I was fooling around with it, I had Michigan 6. So it's not that far away from where I was thinking. But, the part that is interesting as you go in, Georgia's number 1. That's who I would have picked. But Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas are 2, 3, 4. And as everyone knows, those are the toughest teams on Michigan's schedule. But they have 2 of those 3 teams at home. And if they play up to their capabilities and beat everybody else they'll be favored against, and then they just knock off one of those teams, whether it's Texas in week 2 or Oregon in, week 8, I think, week 8 or 9 on November the 2nd. And the last game against Ohio State, however they do it, then Michigan will be looking good as it applies to the college football playoff. And that's the goal. And if I could pick, if you say, which one would you want to see them win out of those 3? That'd be easy for me. I'd say go down to Columbus and beat Ohio State, but you might not be, and I probably wouldn't be thinking about they had a great chance if they lost to Texas and then they lost to Oregon of going down there to do it. So you might just use up when you play this game, if you say, hey, which of the 3, you might just use up your pick and say you just like to see them beat Texas, because then if they did beat Texas, you feel like they'd be able to beat Oregon and Ohio State anyways. Those are the kind of the mental gymnastics that I go through to do all this. But here's the good news. Everybody does. We do all kinds of stuff like that, thinking about this and jumping through that. And what about this? And what do you think there? And then the season starts and you just throw it all out the window. And then it's on because we have games to talk about. But until then, we do a lot of these type of things. So let's talk about the notice of allegations that draft that was leaked through. We had heard about it earlier in the week, and then yesterday, or was it the day before, I'm a little confused or having a hard time remember that it all came out there through ESPN. When stuff like this comes out from Michigan, I have to admit that I have a little bit of a knee-jerk of reaction of damn, this is not good, and this is can't Michigan do something? And what do they do? What's the NCAA doing? And oh my God, is this really going to be? This is going to be bad for Michigan. And then you take a breath and step back a little bit and look at it, and you say, well, wait a second. Well, what's that? What does this really matter? I mean, what are they doing? They're really trumpeting this up to make it sound like it's a big deal. That's maybe not that big of a deal. But I've had time to digest it all, so I'm not sitting here acting crazy and yelling and screaming about anything about this latest round of the situation, about this draft. Remember, this is about Michigan versus the NCAA. And it's not really about what we think happened with Connor Stallions and whether, he helped Michigan or didn't. It's about what the NCAA can prove when it comes down to this. So your opinions are valued, and I give mine out, and everybody else gives their opinion on this matter. But it's about what you can prove. Just like in Training Day, when Denzel Washington said, it's not about, it's about what you can prove. And he's putting cases on everyone. He's King Kong or something, however that went down. But since the NCAA can't prove that U of M coaches knew about the signs, they are going to the old Al Capone approach, from what I have seen. And, they couldn't get the old gangster in Chicago on racketeering or murder, on any of the things that they wanted to get him on. So they got him on tax evasion. And I feel like this is what the NCAA is doing to Michigan. They don't have anything. They feel like I think they feel like, Michigan, everybody's told them that, you need to hit them and get them at the kneecaps and do all this stuff. But they don't have anything. They don't have anything that could stick and that they can really take them down. And so what they're using is they're using leaks, and they're using they're using ESPN and a guy like Pete Thamel, and they're using local reporters to put some of this damning information out. And then everybody starts talking about it. Oh, Michigan. And it is negative with Michigan, and it's serving their purpose. They can't do anything about it. So what they're doing is that they're releasing, I believe, this information to do Michigan dirty, and it's all they can. It's the only thing they can do. It's like that's what they can do. Now, Michigan didn't help them. Harbaugh and Stallions, they could say, well, they didn't cooperate. That's why we're doing this. And I have to remember myself that, look, this is about fun. This is college football, and it is a big business and everything else. But, the drama part to this, off-field drama, is part of the landscape. And Michigan is front and center of it. And man, people are just going crazy when it comes down to any of this. And, it's just like hyper, exponential, people going nuts about anything that's released about Michigan. But, if you didn't see the latest story, the new info in there was they had Sharon Moore deleting text on the same day that Stallions, the news came to light that, he was this crazed super fan that Michigan hired that went wild and had this manifesto, and the whole rest there. But Sharon deleted his text, and they're saying, hey, that's that is not cooperating with the NCAA. Well, then they were able to capture those texts, and then you find out that there's really nothing in there. It wasn't like he was like, yo, can I get those signals? Like, that would have been, if they would have recovered some texts that said, what's up, CS? Hit me with those, hit me with the signs for Maryland. There wasn't anything. What's up with those? What's the scheme? Apparently there was none of that. I don't know what the text said. Maybe it was like, hey, what's up for lunch? Maybe he was sending him some emoji. Whatever it was, it didn't seem to be deemed by anybody that it was damning to Michigan or had any kind of leak from Stallion's scheme to the coaches. So that doesn't seem like much of anything. But if you see more deletes text, like, whoa, Stallions, the crook, more deleting his text, but it was nothing. I mean, there was nothing to that. But the NCAA, they go back to last year's violations, and then more was involved in that and got dinged where he contacted recruits during a no contact period. And so coming around, even though it didn't mean anything, they're trying to say that this would be a two-time offender and that could put him in jeopardy of being suspended. You'd even see these show causes, which, that's not a big deal when you're not a coach in college football. They're going to hit Harbaugh and Stallions and McDonald they already have, and Minter. They'll hit them all with these show clauses, and these guys are all in the pros, and they're going to be like, yeah, here's your show clause. But when they put that in there with Sharon Moore, I don't think that's happening. Even when they talk about, we're going to suspend him, that seems very flimsy. For what? Or it could have been just like, whoa, I always knew this Stallions was crazy. Let me go ahead and delete this dude. Boop. And so I don't know. That's the way I'm feeling about it when it comes down to this latest round of the situation with the NCAA and this story that's got a lot of people worked up. And like I said, myself included, but it does make you flash, like where you're like, whoa, but it's a dirty pool draft release by the NCAA, and it served its purpose. It's negative press, but this is the tool that they can use. It's not a, you think like this is some fair-minded body. No, they're mad. They're mad that Michigan isn't cooperating. So they're like, okay, you know what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to play a little, we're going to go ahead and get you where we can. And that's with, everybody will fan the flames over here of this controversy and of this, this Stallion situation. And we'll get everybody worked up about it, even though it's not that big of a deal. I mean, this is something else. I mean, look, are we supposed to, nobody really, and this is it. They probably hate everybody saying you guys are a bunch of clowns. Nobody respects you. But then this is a reason why. This is a reason why. And it's got to be tough to be in the NCAA where all of the years, you'd know that teams were paying recruits and then they'd get on the line and they'd say, hey, you guys paying recruits? And they'd say, no. And then they couldn't do anything. And then in this situation, they called up Jim Harbaugh. Hey, Jim, what about those signs you're getting him? Jim's like, just hangs up on him. And they all hang up on him. They don't have the power of attorney. They can't put, or the power of subpoena power. They can't put these guys on the stand and compel them, under the oath, to talk about what happens. So everybody could just tell the NCAA, to go stick it. And I'm sure they hate that. So they have resorted to their own tactics. Come on. That's what that's about. At least that's the way I see it. As the season gets ready to go, we need to get the defending champs. The Stallion story was, had everybody. The part about it is like, you don't really know, and I don't really know. And the opponents of, or everybody in college football, they don't really know. So you can say whatever you want. Like I could say, it doesn't matter. Unless they can prove something, Michigan should be okay. But if it was on the other side, you could say, oh, those dirty rat. So and it's the same thing. But the NCAA, this is, this isn't how a business should be run. This is why people detest the NCAA doing something like this. This is, come on now. Let's go. I'll take a few on the feedback here before we get to the hype train. So Ferris said it was the coaches poll. That's good. Coaches poll. And we'll see. Maybe Michigan's a little higher when it comes to the press when it comes down to it. Yeah, there is the part where it's the opponents when And this is tough. If you live, I live in it a little bit, but if you've watched this podcast, I'm not a real like, oh, Ohio State, you guys are the, the toilet of the Midwest, and little brother and spark. I don't play like a lot of people really enjoy that aspect. Some people call it flat out hatred and distasteful garbage that's spewed back and forth. Others say, hey, that's what makes college football great. I don't know, whatever side that you land on there. I'm kind of in the middle. I get that. There's a lot of passion and people love, going back and forth. It is really nasty. I'm not I'm not above it or anything like that. I'm just saying I don't participate a lot in it, as much as others, I would say. But if you do, my point is, if you are somebody that deals with Ohio State fans, like if you're online and you're like, yo, I got, it is just, I can't believe, it would have been fun last year with Michigan winning, but we also had fuel on the other side. So it has just been a constant back and forth when it comes down to OSU and Michigan State. But I don't really, Michigan State, I think about it like this. Would I have rather have been in the situation of Michigan State last year with Mel Tucker and everything that he went through, or would I have rather been in Michigan's situation? So I don't hear anything that Michigan State fans would say. And Ohio State fans for years, the way that they've operated, the pot calling the kettle black in this situation here. Like, listen to the Ohio State fans talk about, oh, Michigan is a dirty, rotten. It's like, really? You guys, you got the most dirty, rotten program ever? They're in the running. Ohio State is, and then they're, trying to say, oh, but the team up north. It's like, I mean, what are you guys talking about? And the thing is, though, when it's around here, say around here in the state of Michigan, everybody's got an axe to grind on both sides. You either love Michigan or you hate them. There's no, it's like you love Michigan State or Ohio State. And so it's hard to get a clear, it's hard to get anything, going through that. Ferris was expecting Michigan to be on the top, outside the top 10, to be honest. Wow. Well, when you hear people talk about Michigan and I'd say dwell, it's true that they don't have a lot of returning starters and they have a murderous schedule. Those things are true, but they got a great defense. So, if when you mix those two together, come on. Yeah, Notre Dame, they are always overranked. For at least in my lifetime, they've always been. Now, there are people that have said to me that, when I've said that, I like Michigan, we cover Michigan over the years, that say, oh, Michigan is the most arrogant team ever. They're always overranked and always overhyped. But Notre Dame is even more overhyped and even more arrogant. I think there's some truth, to that charge against Michigan. But then last year they rang the bell. And so that's out the window. But Notre Dame, Notre Dame is, you always take Notre Dame and you probably should put them about 10 spots back. But that's the hype, Keegan. Michael was talking about Wright didn't like the hot dogs at the barbecue. Maybe if that was the reason. I don't know. If Michigan should be Texas, they should be number 1. Undefeated defending champ that beat a top 5 team in game 2. 1, 2, the number 4 team. I agree. I agree with that. I don't care, but I care about the Big Ten championship. I'd like to see Michigan get into that Big Ten championship game. If they do, they're going to get into the college football playoff. And if they win the Big Ten again, so they're beating Ohio, a lot of good things to go through there, but So sure, I would like to have one of those first round buys, but getting into the college football playoff and being ranked as high as you can, so you would have a home game. So yeah, I mean, I getting ranked, getting ranked up there. I don't think that they will be number one, but man, I think they will be top three. I don't know what this emoji means from Blue Wolverine. Sorry. I do know, you got the Farmer Jack cowboy hat. I'm not sure. Oh, this is. Keegan saw right coming. Yeah, so did I. All right. We'll take a couple more here. Dave says Connor Stallions got caught with the Rube Goldberg of NCAA level 1 violations and the rest of the coaches. Yeah, I don't understand that, Dave. Sorry, I don't get it. Of all of that, other coaches. Yeah. Michigan needs to win 9 games, plus go 1-2 in their big 3. That's it. We talked about Notre Dame. Lack of institutional control. Here's Dave's again. Current head coach who gave them what they asked for headlines. I'm not connecting with you, Dave, here today. I'm not saying that it could be a me problem. Maybe everybody's like, Dave's making great points. And I'm just sitting here like not understanding it, which, could happen. It could be a generational thing. I'm 54 years old. Dave, might be 21, throwing some things out there and saying, hey, this old man doesn't know what I'm talking about. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Learn. Or maybe everybody's like me saying, Dave, what are you talking about? Here's somebody telling jokes about, Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore, if you say, I was going to say he's going to be all right. Like, Sharon Moore's doing all right. And I know you get into this, and somebody said, I was looking at the Mason Blue Reviews posting board, and I don't recall specifically which poster it was, but they were saying like, look, let's get a game, maybe he just gets suspended for a game this year, and then that'll, placate the NCAA, and then we can move on. It's like, I don't know about moving on. This isn't getting resolved in days or weeks, months. We can start talking about months, but the most, I think, logical, I don't know if it's logical, the most, I think, the timeline that when this gets resolved, because you got 60 days or 90 days, and then you can respond and then you can fight it. And so I don't think anything's going to happen this year. Could it get resolved in the off seasons at this time next year? Yeah, maybe that could happen. Could Michigan, start putting in some motions and delaying it, trying to play? And I know this is a card that a lot of Michigan fans want to see U of M play, is just keep dragging this out as long as possible, and then the NCAA is going to go under, and then Michigan will be absolved of everything. That's an interesting one. I don't know. Sure, let's try that one. People wanted to do that, from the 2 years ago. I look up to this point right now and how things have been played, and you can call me names. You can say I'm soft and I'm like Ward Manuel's buddy or something, like whatever you want to say. I'm all right with any of it. I'm just giving you my opinion on it. Things played out last year with Michigan getting that 3-game suspension at the beginning of the year. I think that it helped them at the end of the year when they had to go through the 3-game suspension I know this gets down, that they had to go through when they tried to fight the Big Ten, and Bettini took Harbaugh off the sideline for those last 3 games. Michigan had been through it just earlier in the year. with not having the head coach and everything that you have to do through the week. Here's the coach, and then he's not on the sideline, and it's Sharon Moore on the sideline, and how that whole thing operates. And it worked for them. They had practice with it. So they did the right thing because it worked. People wanted to fight back then, and they want to get to Harbaugh and say, "Yeah, well, that ticked off Harbaugh. That's the reason that he's gone." You can make an argument for anything. I have found with everything that has come down with Michigan on anything, people, I'd say, "Oh, well, credit Michigan." I'm like, no, don't credit Michigan. Don't credit Ward. They just got lucky. Or, people say, "Oh, credit Michigan." Man, these are Michigan fans. Michigan fans don't really have, they're not in full agreement on anything except that they all hate the NCAA. Everybody's in agreement on that. And that Ohio State is the scum of the earth and that Michigan State, doesn't matter. They all agree about that. But nothing else when it comes down to it. Here's Dave's making some sense. Now, Dave's, here we are. We're connecting now. Because Dave's says he bets Sharon Moore gets nothing in the final draft. Now you're talking. Dave's. And Dave's, we are thinking the same way. He was thinking that the earlier leaks are the punishments in the end. That's right. That's what I think. That's the Al Capone card that they're playing. Honor. The NCAA is not honorable, according to Keegan. We can all agree on that. Dave's. Pate seems to think that in the end, the NCAA is going to look dumb in about 2 weeks. Pate. Is Pate a podcaster that you like? Well, I'll tell you, Dave's, if Pate is onto something, I like him too. If he's in there. Let's look at a couple more. I always say I can sit here all day. Let's do it. I say that, and then sometimes I do sit here all day, and then I look and I see some of the feedback from the comments afterwards. The guy's like, "Why is this guy rambling on and being on so long?" Hey, we're talking about Michigan. That's what we're doing. But I get it. Some people like these little small 5-minute versions. Maybe I get on TikTok and do a couple minute or two deals. All right, let's go. Devon Thamel did come out and throw some water on the fire this morning on Get Up. Pretty much said everyone has overreacted about the recent leak. Well, isn't that the guy that started the fire is over here like, okay, woo, fire's going crazy. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. I started it. Or I'm one of, he's got a gas can. He's like Dr. Dre. Standing outside of the burning house with a can full of gas and a handful of matches. Telling everybody, no. Well, am I related to, I don't know. What are you talking about? Who am I related to? I don't know. I'm getting delusional. All right. Michael says, boys, we got caught. Yeah, again, here, Michael, it's not about really getting caught. It's about what they can prove. And what you see along the way is that the NCAA is trying to administer some punishment, through the media. And look, the negativity, it could work. The long game, when it comes out immediately. I know last week there was a report, and it was from a Michigan site. And they're like, this could be really bad for Michigan. And Michigan people, talking to people, and they're like, oh, this is just so damning for recruiting. That's the thing that kills me, because this is going to hurt. There's an old saying in Michigan football. when I first started back in the early 90s. And an old wise man said, I guess he was a wise guy too. He said, everything, everything affects Michigan, either positively or negatively. So, yeah, the negative recruiting part, I'm not here to tell everybody, oh, yeah, this is going to affect 25 and 26. If it could, every single recruit, and you imagine they all get called even when they commit, they're trying to flip them. But just last week, today, they all got a fresh batch of communication from coaches around the country, like, oh, Michigan, and so they have to deal with that. And I don't know, so they all have outs. So, right. I mean, I can't tell you that they're all going to stay or a couple are going to go or whatever else, but it's negativity. There's Steven laying it down. Steven adamant with an exclamation point saying the Michigan did not cheat. Here's Michigan Go Blue 1234. Sounds like my password. Oh my gosh, it really was Connor Stallions. Who knew? Oh yeah. And this last week, somebody mentioned that there's some cheap wood for MSU and OSU over this last week. They've really been enjoying themselves. There is no doubt about that. All right. Here's my password saying that ESPN is a joke. Here's a good rule of thumb if you're a Michigan fan. If you don't like what I'm saying, just turn me off and say that I'm a joke. And that applies to anyone that's out there that is writing or talking about Michigan. If you like what they say, hey, guy's not all that bad. But if you don't like it, just put them in the joke category. It might not be the the best way to do things, but it's nice and easy. If you're saying things about Michigan's that is positive and that you like the person. If they don't, you don't like them. Problem is, some people, they say a little bit nice about Michigan. They might say a little bit negative. That's where you can just go back and forth. Hey, guy's a joke, but then, there you go. Well, Ferris says there's a combination of the NCAA and the ESPN. They're colluding to defame Michigan's character. I mean, I know what you're saying. It sounds pretty wild to read it off like that. Ferris, most of the people that are watching agree with you. They're like, that Ferris is right. To hell with ESPN and the NCAA. They're like one and the same. Kind of the same thing. Here is Garrison. If it was nothing, nobody in your media would talk about it. Oh, this is Buckeye Garrison. If it had no credence, no one would talk about it. Well, Garrison, here's the thing. It's been out there for a while now. When did we know about it? On October the 19th, the day before the Michigan State games, when it all came to light, the Connor Stallions story. They have not been able to prove it. And you guys know all about proving it. Like Ohio State, I mean, and it's why you're really good at it now. Part of it, you guys have been dealing out and playing under the table, for my entire life, but you really haven't been able to get caught. You get caught down there with some, tattoos and, some others, your coach was looking the other way with domestic violence, that kind of ruined things for you. But for the most part, you guys have been able to get away with it because when they call Ohio State players and say, were you guys getting illegal money to come to Ohio State? They said, no. And that's how it works. So you enjoy yourself down there in South Ohio. That's it. Yeah. Let's see. I'll go one more for Garrison. He wants to be honest and say vacating and banning won't happen. But you all have to be honest and say this isn't a good look. And common sense tells you something illegal was done and people knew. Yeah. To me, Garrison, like I'm going to say as honest as I can, I get where you're coming from. But remember, this is college football. And it going to some kind of high ground and saying, "Oh, we're squeaky clean and we have done nothing." It's about what you can prove. That's what it's about. It doesn't really matter what you think, Garrison, or what I think. It doesn't really matter if I think, well, maybe it doesn't matter. They've got to prove it. And if they're able to do that, then Michigan has to pay. Along the way, because they really think something's happening, they're trying to sabotage in ways that they can, as we have seen here this week, by slipping things out there that they know will negatively affect Michigan. That's what the NCAA is doing. It's like one of the only cards that they have left, because every time that they've called up Jesse Minter sees the NCAA. He's like, boop, I got nothing. And goofy ass Connor Stallions, who almost took the whole program down, he's hanging in there, saying that he's Connor Stallions from day one said, "Hey, this has got nothing to do with Michigan. This was all me. That big fat manifesto that I wrote and all the schemes and signs nobody knew anything about it. I did it all alone." So he took it. So they haven't been able to prove it. And that's it. So I don't agree about the gaslighting. This is it. Now I'm just laughing. John's uncle is a diehard Ohio State fan. He can't cope. Yeah. Well, if you think how tough the last 3 years, like the previous 16 years, I know how that felt. And there's a certain weight that is on you when you lose to Ohio State when you're Michigan. And if you lose consecutively, and if it's a long draw, it just every year weighs more and more. And OSU fans can look to this, the greatest. I saw one of their, I assume, members of the media, because he was at a practice and he went to Twitter and it was a long tweet about just everybody looked great for Ohio State. And except he was talking about the offensive line and the quarterback. And he said he doesn't even think it matters because everybody's so great that these guys don't even have to. And he might have had a point. Well, what was my point about that? Oh, yeah, they could be this juggernaut and mow everybody down, but they still have got Michigan coming in. And, I'm not gaslighting you, old Garrison, but I'm telling you, we'll talk that week. And man, I'm going to have fun that week because there's, Michigan's in with a chance that Donovan Edwards is going to be running wild against you guys. No matter, you guys can smoke everybody 40, 50 to nothing, but Michigan's coming to town. And that's where you guys will be ready to go. MW, money's fair game. And the Buckeyes have plenty of it. Yeah, well, again, you gotta prove your point, Garrison. Let's see. Is the NCAA is just mad because Coach Harbaugh exposed them? Yeah. Like I don't know how he exposed them. So I don't really get that part, but there's probably a lot of people that feel like that. I don't know. I don't know about, when it comes to Harbaugh and how Harbaugh was a great football coach, and he stood up for the players, and he could have been around here, but I don't know. Did he expose the NCAA? I don't know if he did that. Looks like we've got feedback for days and days. OSU criticizing Michigan's integrity, and they had Urban Meyer as their head coach. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's really worked out for everyone. I don't know that. Do I know any Ohio? I know some Ohio State fans, but I know a lot of Michigan State fans, and it worked out for all of the OSU and MSU fans because they all went to this high ground and started talking about, but Michigan won the national championship, so it's like everyone won. Let's keep that going. That part. That is it. A lot of OSU. Here's 5-star feedback from Hadley. Talk about hate. Michigan would be rated number 1 or 2 as the most hated team. The NCAA can go pound sand. Hadley's mad. Dave's explaining who Rube Goldberg is. He was a guy who built complicated traps to do simple things. See if I can go down a Rube Goldberg rabbit hole later and check it out. MW's a troll. Oh, there's Dave. Dave's around my age. Yeah, sorry, Dave. Sometimes it happens. You sit out here. I'm here live, exposed for the millions to come at me, and I don't know. Do other shows go like live feedback and read most of it, and then try to deal with it, as it's coming through? I try my best, and sometimes I just take my lumps when I have to. I don't know why. I don't get it. People it's gone off where there's a lot of Missouri talk. So I don't get. Maybe somebody thought that this was when it said a U of M pod, that they thought this was a Missouri pod. Somebody keeps talking about Missouri, or is it kind of like Missouri beat OSU? So that's kind of a zinger towards some of the Ohio State fans that have joined in today. I don't know. Here's Blue Wolverine. We'll put him up. He's pledged $4.99 to the show. Let's go. Breaking. OSU's school library was a total loss Sunday due to a fire. Both books were destroyed, and one wasn't even colored in yet. Go Blue. There we go. Where'd that rib shot? Oh, no, that's the hype train. Not a rim shot, but it worked. No evidence. All right. Can we get 3 more from people that have not joined in, like Thomas? Thomas is not liking the NCAA and ESPN this afternoon. He is calling Pete Thamel a joke, and also indicating that Thamel is colluding with Ohio State and Ryan Day to bring this up on the spring day opener. And there's a lot of people that think that Pete Thamel's getting his news from, did he work down in Columbus? So he has some ties, and yeah, maybe. Hey, he's got to take those slings and arrows, doesn't he? That's for sure. Fall practice opener. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I was like, spring, but I don't know. Thamel throws a lot of stuff out there, so he could have been firing some crap out uh, this isn't the first time that Thamel is just throwing some stuff out there thinking that he's got something. OSU going to the claiming they got beat from the cell phone footage. That's it. Okay. But I said 3 more for people that haven't got in. Old Andre's getting in. Oh, Andre's sending a message to ESPN to steal this sign. And he has put, I didn't even know there was such a thing of a middle finger emoji. I have to look on my own phone, see if I can find that one, Andre. Send some of those out. What's up? Keegan indicates don't watch ESPN or click on any of their articles. Yeah. Yeah, it's a way to go. Like if you don't like, not only call somebody a joke if you don't like them, but don't watch or don't click the articles. I have to admit, there's a few. Sometimes I am on YouTube and something comes up, and I'm like, I'm not clicking onto that because I don't like that person. Do I do that? Well, yeah, I do it with stories too. Like, it's not. I'm going to do my part. I remember a long time ago when I worked in Ann Arbor, and there was a columnist. He passed away a few years ago. I ended up working with him in Detroit, and I was a friend of his afterwards. His name was Drew Sharp. But Drew used to write, and Drew went to Michigan, so people hated that he would write negatively about Michigan. But he attacked Michigan and he attacked the Big Ten, and that's what Drew did. That was his thing. But people would call up and say, "Oh, Drew Sharp? Did you see his column? I'm so upset with Drew Sharp of the Free Press. I'm never getting that rag again." And I'd say, "Look, I never miss a Drew Sharp column." And they say, "Well, what'd you think of it?" I said, I don't read them, so I never miss it. I don't miss it. I don't miss what Drew Sharp." And Drew, man, Drew would have still been rolling, but he would not have had a good year last year because his 2 favorite things, and it just was over and over again, he just kept doing it, is he would always pick the Lions and Michigan to lose. Always. And he reveled in it. He enjoyed it. It worked for him. He'd write columns. It was I'm gonna say it. It was cheap. It was cheap. It was a little bit like the other guy that replaced him over there. He's kind of continued on the Drew Sharp. I forget his name. I don't miss any of his stuff either. I really don't miss his stuff, and I don't know him. So, but what was my point here? Oh, he would have hated Michigan winning the national championship and the Lions, who he always picked against, and it looked like he was, he had a pretty good run picking against the Lions. Drew's up there like, wow. Drew would be writing a column right now with all this fun and stuff with the Lions going on. He'd be like, "Well, I hope you enjoyed your 1 year because it's over." Although nobody thinks that, but he would get he'd get a lot of hits. People would be calling up saying, "This Drew Sharp's an idiot," and he'd be like, "Yeah." I got another point on that. I had a program director one time that you'd have people that would listen to a show and they would say, "Oh, I hate this guy. I'm going to send an email to the program director. Or I'm going to leave the program director a voicemail." I talked to the program director and they like getting emails and voice messages on why these people hate and are never listening to the station again because of a certain a broadcaster. And say the most popular ones get the most hate mail and most hate voicemails. Well, sometimes say you better be a little bit more controversial. You're not getting as many calls about people telling you they hate you. I know it's a weird thing, but people like it. John, let me think about this. John has put down $10 on Donovan Edwards to win the Heisman. It'll pay over 1,000. Good bet, John. I like it. Old John, if there's a Michigan, I hadn't thought about the Heisman Trophy this year. The odds-on favorite was it. I think it's Dylan Gabriel, right? The quarterback from Oregon. They throw the ball a ton. They're going to be pretty good. And so that's why he is the favorite. Well, Georgia's quarterback probably was the favorite before that. They're the number one ranked team. You got the quarterback of the number one ranked team back. He could be the guy. OSU. No Maserati Marv. Maybe the true freshman Smith. Is he going to win the Heisman? The two running backs are going. It's not going to be Howard. Will it be one of the two running backs? I think they'll all split the vote. I don't see anybody from Ohio State. Ewers could potentially be up there, but maybe he gets off the list quick when he throws a couple picks. And Will Johnson from Michigan. I think Will Johnson's in the mix. I feel like Will Johnson with a big game against Texas moves into the top 5. And then, hey, Will Johnson. Look at Will Johnson. Nothing against your pick here, John, because I would like everyone else. I like Donovan Edwards. I'd like to see Donovan Edwards win the Heisman Trophy, but, Will Johnson, big game against Ewers, takes him off the list. And then the favorite for the Heisman Trophy, Dylan Gabriel, just racking up numbers left and right. And then he comes to Ann Arbor, and Will Johnson picks him off a couple times. A pick 6 in there. And then Will Johnson puts himself in position against Ohio State down in Columbus. I think I might put him on a punt return back. Takes a punt return back distance. I don't know, Will Johnson, Donovan Edwards. It's fun to think about. Gambling's fun. If you got extra money to throw around, that'd be great. I don't know. Okay. What did I say? 3 more? And I don't know where I'm at. 2 more. I agree with this one. I can't wait for week 1. I'm ready. I went through and was hanging in there and everything else. I was watching some Tigers. Woo! Blue Wolverine says most shows occasionally respond to the general chat. However, most focus on the super chat. Is a super chat where what you participated in, Blue? I guess I could understand that. Does that work? I say, I'll be responding to no general chats, only super chats. Is that how they roll? That working out there? Be interesting. Got to get that rim shot going. You're right. Let's do it. Kevin is talking about ESPN has to get ahead of the narrative before the Connor film. Yeah, the Connor film. Why can't we read Thamel's text messages? He better not be deleting messages on his phone. The part, I guess I didn't read this, that was there like I get, you've got your Michigan phone. And I dropped my phone. Smashed up in the corner here. See it? I need a new one. What's my point? Oh, I get it. I remember when Kwame Kilpatrick was the mayor of Detroit, and he was conducting his affair, and he was doing it on the mayor's paid phone. Well, then all those texts were was the girl the woman Christine Beatty. They were all right there. You could go through. That did him in. And I don't know, should he have known that? Use your company phone yeah, he should have known that. And so I don't know what kind of training Michigan goes through, but they use the Kwame rule. Hey guys, if we're talking about stallions or something, don't use your Don't use your company phone. But NCAA saying, "Hey, can we get a look at your personal phone?" Like, what? I mean, I don't know. Did they ask that? I've seen people talk about it. I actually haven't seen that reported, like, and so that could be just like some kind of Twitter thing. Like they asked Jim Harbaugh, "Hey, can we check out your personal phone?" And Jim's like, "What? My personal phone? You want to come on over and I mean, what you guys going to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning and serve me some kind of warrant and with flat you can bring the FBI in and you guys what's the NCAA think they are? I don't know. There's a lot of people that act like they know the rules. I don't know if you can do that or not. We're getting close to the season, natty or bust. Woo! I think that was your a good moniker for last year, natty or bust. I think this year it should be CFP or bust. How about that? Andres likes me more than Pete Thamel. Thanks. Here's Jason, JP, who has been around, coaches college or coaches high school football, I believe, and he's talking about my goat, Penny, and talking about the chat here. He can't wait to get the year going. They hate us because they ain't us. Go blue, he says. Looking good there. All right. That's it. Great job, JP. Okay, well, we're on to the next thing, and that is the hype train. And I feel a little bit bad. If I went back and if I wanted to pat myself on the back, I would go back to last year's first hype train. And I would admonish, I would pull up the chat because there was somebody who jumped in on the chat when I said that Roman Wilson was being overlooked, not only in the Big Ten, but nationally. That Roman Wilson, when people talk about Michigan's wide receivers, they don't talk about him enough. And somebody came in and said, I don't know if it was Athlons or Lindy's or something. He said, he's not even on the first 4 teams. He didn't make 4th team all Big Ten for the wide receivers. And when he was done, I had to go back and I had to say, is that guy really? I mean, really? And he was right. That guy. Nowhere on there. It was Roman Wilson. And it ended up being a theme over the summer because people would come in and say, well, Michigan, would say, oh, we're, because quarterback's pretty easy this year to question. And so's the offensive line and place kicker. I would go to those to be the top 3. But people like to say, well, Michigan they don't really have a go-to wide receiver. And I'd say, I don't know where it came from. I think it was shows like this. There must have been somebody that a lot of you watched that said, no, Michigan, they really don't have a wideout. Well, the point is that I had Roman Wilson, the first one on the hype train. I was a big fan, and then he backed it up. Now, this year's first edition 1.0 of the hype train is Jay-Sean Barham. And I have to admit something about Jay-Sean Barham. I have only watched him play one time. And it was against Michigan. And it was last year. Now, Jay-Sean Barham picked off J.J. McCarthy in the Michigan-Maryland game last year. It's towards the end of the half. But, Barham made a play. And, Barham made honorable mention all Big Ten. And he was one of the first, him and Preeb, the offensive lineman, the guard from Northwestern, were the first 2 that Michigan grabbed out of the transfer portal. And both of these guys, if you're asking me who's going to be the biggest contributors out of the transfer portal, I would say Barham and Preeb. Somebody told me that Preeb had been down to some practices, not here so far in fall camp, but in spring said that, Preeb's the best Michigan offensive lineman. But speaking about people that go to practice, every single person that I talked to mentioned Barham. And then I would look elsewhere and everybody mentioned Barham. And the one guy that I talked with who, and it's not anybody that I bring on the pod here, somebody else, he just said, Barham looks like he could play for the Lions. First 5 minutes I watched him out there, you can just see it. I was like, really? You can see in the first 5 minutes? He said, oh, yeah. They're not going to have a drop off with the junior Colson. And in fact, Barham might even be better. That's how good he is. He's just, flat out. And so I am going on my own hype train. And it's a little bit about hype. I'm hyping somebody up that I'm not really sure about. I'm taking others' hype on Jay-Sean Barham, and I am picking up what they're laying down, and I'm putting Jay-Sean Barham on there. I thought it was interesting. I was reading a story this morning about Jay-Sean Barham because I knew I had him on the hype train. And it was a story from MLive. They had him listed at 6'4", 238. I was like, wow, he's rangy, 6'4" linebacker. But on Michigan's fall roster, they measured him out and have him listed at 6'3", 248. That sounds like a prototypical linebacker. Still big, still rangy, but I'm ready for Jay-Sean Barham to come on out and be that guy. Game 1 against Fresno, you're going to be looking and saying, who's that? Who's this number 1? Oh, that's Barham. Wow, that guy can play. He can run. He looks great. And then against Texas, Barham. And anybody that knows anything at all about defense and specifically front 7, and then even specifically zeroing in more about linebacker play, will tell you that if you got your guys on the defensive line right at the front occupying guys and you got a good defensive tackles, that allows you to free up a linebacker that can run and can make plays from sideline to sideline. What I am saying in layman's terms for you, and then, I don't know, I was just messing around with some of that. Barham's in the perfect spot. Michigan's got a great defensive line. And this guy's got the kind of disposition, according to Wink Martindale last week, that you want for a linebacker. So it's all there for him. Big, rangy. He is going to be able to run, blitz. He should have a great year. I think Barham, you're telling me, what's the ceiling on Barham? Oh, I'll be right with you. I'll be right done. I'll be done in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay. This is my wife. So I'm there. And that's it when it comes down to Barham. Preeb. The E is silent. Yes. Oh, it's a pocket dial, according to my wife. That's good. Thought she's going to be like something else. So I'm back. Good to go. Yes, Preeb. It looks like Preeby, but it's Preeb. That's it. I'm going to look back at the general chat. Never called it that before. And I'm not really sure. People are just kind of talking about anything. Ferris is talking about Greenfield Village. I don't know what brought that up. The Greenfield Village. I went there as I think what'd you call that when you're a field trip. We went down to Greenfield Village. It's pretty cool. Mr. Martini wants to know when you're going to have Scar on to talk about this NOA. Scar is scheduled to come on Wednesday. So there it is. I'll ask him what his thoughts are on the NOA. Here is BN. He did not know the head football coach at Michigan has to keep all text archive like he is the president of the United States. Seems like a Michigan head coach rule only. Yeah, so when it comes down to a lot of this, when you are in the Big Ten, you abide by their rules, like their whatever bylaws, and I don't know, maybe those are all they probably are. It's in some kind of handbook or somewhere that you can look on all of them. And then when you have school issued phones and those have to be made available if the conference or the NCAA determines that, or was it determines if they ask for them to be turned over, you have to do that. That's part of it. There was I'm going to reference the Den again, which is on the Maize and Blue Review, and so if like you might guess over this weekend, there has been a lot of conversation about this draft on the notice of allegations, and there was one guy, and you get the conversation. There's some people that say, hey, look at Michigan, you're supposed to cooperate. And, the NCAA is saying Michigan is not cooperating. So then there's a lot of people saying Michigan shouldn't do any cooperating. And then there's others that say, but the point to this is that there was a poster that indicated that he thinks Michigan has messed this up the whole way, that they should be sticking it to the NCAA. There should be zero cooperation. He didn't like that the NCAA came in the day before the Maryland game last year and waltzed in before their shakedown. He said that what he would have done is he would have banned them from campus. And I don't know, had a confrontation, would not have allowed them in the building, let alone question student athletes without having an attorney present or something like that. And I don't know, I don't know about all the rules and everything else, but as tight of a ship that Michigan runs, I have to believe that there's you have to, would that have been the real way to operate last year, to have a standoff with the NCAA outside your football building when you're getting ready to leave for your last home game undefeated the week before Ohio State? Is that really would that have been a great strategy? Yes. Thing is, it still worked. Partridge was fired. Look, there's been damage all the way through there. Partridge got fired. Now he's suing. You remember that? This can go on and on and on all day, every day, talking about this. I don't know what it's like at other football programs. I think these other football programs, just pick one. You'd sit around and say, what do they talk about? Michigan, you've got, not only, playing like they have for the last 3 years, winning the national championship, but then all of the drama off the field that is just overflowing. I guess these other schools are talking about, well, we got this offensive lineman coming in who's daddy's cousin, was an alum. And it's like, okay, that's good. I like recruiting myself, but that's where it's at. All right. Final three down here for the show. Dave says the leaks made it a one-side conversation when no one can comment on it one way or the other. Yes, I assume, Dave, that it would be something if Michigan was leaking it out about themselves. So it would look like the NCAA and everybody would get mad at it, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. So I would guess that now, although I thought maybe that was the case last week, but now it looks like this is how the NCAA is operating because Michigan's not cooperating and it's going to be a long time, and they might feel like they would be out of business. So let's see what kind of damage that we can do now. And you're right, Michigan can't comment on it. It's a pretty nasty business. And initially, when I see it, I want to go down to the headquarters and I want to start when guys are walking out, and I want to start grabbing them and start squaring up. What are you doing? Leak? Who are you leaking stuff to? Start saying mean things about, I'll take that pencil neck Pete Thamel, snap him in half. Those are the kind of things you think about when you see this, because it feels like they're doing Michigan dirty. And the NCAA, I don't know, Pete Thamel, journalists, there's some slime balls in this business. I don't even know if Pete Thamel's a slime ball, but he's yeah, I'll put him in if at least for right now. Pete, I'm going to put you in there, put you in the slime ball bin. It feels like you are that, but yeah, the NCAA, you guys running some game on Michigan, putting some stuff out there in the media. Come on, that just takes us back to the point we started. NCAA. Oh, is this really where we're at right here? Running a game on Michigan and putting out leaks to damage the Michigan with some credibility and try to hurt their recruiting. This is the game you're going to run. Oh, I don't know. What up? The gloves are off. Let's go. Okay. Thanks so much. Yeah, he's doing a job, but that doesn't mean you can't be you can still be a slime ball doing a job. You're a little slimy. Thamel. I've listened to him enough. Scott. Okay, final three. Here's three. Scott says it is a bummer that we have these allegations hanging over our national title when other universities like Ohio State, Alabama have been cheating their asses off for years. Yeah, it was. It did add a ton of drama, but not the kind of drama that I wanted or you wanted, Scott. So I get exactly what you're saying. And, that's the part that you look at and say, this has been a nasty cheating sport since we've all started watching it. And so even if Michigan was involved with some of this stuff, they're just doing what the other schools would do. And then if you really wanted to argue, we'd say, paying players illegally, which is what we all think that all of these other schools have done repeatedly, especially the teams that you name. And those are level 1 violations. Michigan, the scouting in person was an antiquated level, not a level 1. It was a bylaw. I don't know, level 1? I don't even know what that would be. A level 4 working around 11.111. I mean, come on. So they have to prove it all. But even if Michigan did this, that they worked around a bylaw where everybody else was, blatantly going for level 1s, I'm good with it. Andres is not bummed at all. They hate us because they ain't us. The reigning, defending national champs. That's it. And finally, Mr. Martini says Thamel has probably sprained his thumb blocking people on Twitter today. I think Pete Thamel probably goes home and greases that black hair down on his head and probably sleeps just fine doing it all. Again, it's Michigan right now. Next week it'll be, he'll be on to the next scandal next alleged scandal. Sorry, he'll be on to the next scandal, and then the fan base will all hate him. And that goes with the territory again. And then next year he'll be on whatever other drama, and he'll be involved there, and everybody will be slinging stuff at him and saying, how he's the biggest prick in the world, and putting him in the slime bin like I have. And, he'll just, sit back and, continue to peel off those bills and pat down that black hair that he has on his head and enjoy himself. So I hope you enjoyed the show today. Thanks so much for joining us. Smash that like button. And I appreciate everybody joining us today. We will see you on Wednesday. Have a great day. So long.